you guys all doing? So, first of all, before we get started, let's take a deep breath together because we know that that is very valuable and very important. And first, before we even get started on our breath, doesn't matter what time it is that you're watching this because time is just a construct that man created. The moment is that you are here because you're ready for this. You planned this, you designed this moment, and you're ready. So take a breath and hold. Let go. Let's just let that energy flow. Take another breath and hold. Let go. And we just say right now the body, the mind, the soul, the fallen mindset, the fallen matrix, we say deactivate, completely turn off. And we just say creator mode, fully activated, fully on, divine that we are. And take a deep breath and hold and let go. And take another breath and hold. Let go and let's let your shoulders relax, your jaw unclench, and you've arrived. You're here. So today I want to talk about something very important. There's actually this type of human being walking this planet that most society does not actually understand. They're actually the ones who felt too much. They saw too much and spent years believing that their depth was a problem to fix instead of a gift to forge. And these are the empaths, who became psychological geniuses, actually. Not just nice people, not just sensitive people, but humans who can walk into a room instantly, feel the atmosphere, see the patterns, and read the truth beneath the performance. How's it going, American Stoner? Good to see you. So today, this teaching is for those hidden ones. The ones who carried everyone's pain, the ones who became scapegoats. How many of you felt like scapegoats, the target? You'd be sitting there not doing a thing and they'd be yelling at you for things they were doing, but blaming you for them. The ones who expected to stay quiet and soft, but instead went through a transformation so deep that they became unstoppable. See, by the end of this teaching, you'll see that what the world called a curse is actually a weapon waiting to be forged. You'll see how an empath goes from overwhelmed and manipulated to psychologically complete and impossible to control. So let's start with a simple question. You can ask yourself this. You ready? Have you ever walked into a room and felt the mood before a single word was even spoken? You can feel everything going on. Nice. Glad you're having some coffee. We'll send that coffee over here a little bit, okay? So, how many of you walked into a room and you felt the mood of before a single word was even spoken? You knew exactly what was going on. That's an empath. But what is an empath really, anyways? Well, let's ground this word a little bit, okay? Empath for a moment. A psychological and neuroscience shows that some people are simply wired to higher emotional sensitivity and stronger social perceptions. They notice tiny shifts in tone, micro expressions, and body language, like no tomorrow, that others even just overlook and even explain away. They have high emotional intelligence. They can sense what others feel, even when it isn't spoken at all. They have strong pattern recognitions. They notice this behavior looks like that other situations. And they deep self-awareness. They watch their own reactions and inner world closely. This is the beginning of the psychological genius. See, not about knowing fancy terms, not about degrees on the wall, but about seeing what is real in human behavior with almost brutal clarity, precision. So let this land for a moment. See, an empaths are not weak at all. They're not weak just because they feel. They're actually powerful because they perceive more. So ask yourself, what are some of the subtle signals you pick up that others seem to miss? Eyes, tone, silence, posture. You can see it. You can see even the things they're trying to hide, the jabs they're trying to throw, the things they're trying to behave and do. So let's borrow a metaphor from quantum physics for a moment. See, in quantum physics, particles exist multiple possibilities states until they're actually observed. The empaths observe. So observation collapses in that cloud of probabilities into a defined outcome. And see, the observer can see that defined outcome. See, human beings are like that socially, and we walk around, many possible selves, many masks. And the masks we wear, the roles we perform, the persona we present in a room where nobody is truly paying attention, almost anything can pass as real. And then an empath walks in and they don't hear words. They feel the field and they see it. Their nervous system is like a measurement device picking up tension, inconsistencies, forced laughs, nervous glances. And when an empath enters a room, the social wave function collapses because now the room's been observed completely and fully. And what is fake begins to start to feel exposed, which is why many empaths can walk in a room and become the target. It's why even in schools, these kids end up being the ones that feel bullied because they actually observed and saw the truth. See, people can feel seen without ever being called out. And that alone can make them deeply uncomfortable because the observer sees them, the empath sees. So, have you ever noticed people becoming defensive around you, nervous, or even hostile around you for no reason when you hadn't even said or done a single thing? Nothing wrong, but they just freaking out. I get this all the time. I even got it to a point someone believes such intense illusions that they came at me with a gun, but karma came in and gave them a stroke before they could get to me. They brought a gang to try and help build them up to support what they were doing, even though I was absolutely done nothing, not a single thing. See, as a child, you took on an emotional state, the whole house. How many of you did that? You felt everything in the home. Maybe this is you. You became the listener, the fixer, the peacemaker. Family wars would happen. You were the one sitting in the center, even as a little toddler with diapers on. You absorb the feelings that others refuse to deal with. See, psychology gives a name to one of these survival strategies, the Vaughn response, we call it. And instead of fighting or fleeing, some children survive by being overly nice, overly accommodating, and overly responsible for everyone's mood. Spiritually and agnostically, these are the lambs among the wolves. They carry the shadow of the family, the friend group, the community, and they think, if I can just be good enough, calm enough, kind enough, maybe everyone will be okay. But there is a cost. You see, they begin to believe that their sensitivity is the problem. They are told, you're too much, too sensitive, too emotional. And they start doubt. They start to doubt their own perceptions even. You're doing okay? Sorry, your back hurts. So what messages did you receive about your sensitivity growing up? Was it honored, mocked, or pathologized? See, the burden of seeing too much. I was one of those. See, as we grow, these empaths, we become incredibly accurate readers of people and we walk into a room and feel who is lying. We sense who is performing. We notice who is collapsing inside while smiling outside. They're not minds, they're reading patterns. They're not reading minds. They're not psychics. They're actually seeing the pattern as what it is. And micro expressions, body language, energetic mismatches. But this gift has a social cost. What's that social cost? Small talk feels painful because the surface is so obvious, not the truth. You can't even do surface conversations. Friendships become difficult because people feel seen through. And some people react as if their private thoughts are being invaded, even though the empath says nothing. When you see clearly, you become a mirror. And many people, including entire systems, cannot stand to look in an honest mirror. Your greatest strength, your clarity starts to feel like a burden. Not because you're wrong, but because the world punishes accuracy when it threatens comfort. So think back for a moment. Have you ever lost a relationship simply because you could not pretend not to see what was really happening there? See, empaths get to this point where it's enough is enough. And there's only so long, the nervous system can carry everyone's pain. Over time, the empath's body, mind begins to protest and say, fuck this shit. And they experience burnout. They experience burnout and exhaustion, anxiety, insomnia, physical tension, or unexplained aches, emotional overload, and feeling done with everything. Society often labels this as being negative, dramatic, or too sensitive, again, blaming the empath instead of the environment. But spiritually, this is the dark night of the soul, the moment where the body refuses to keep lying. It's like, fuck it, I can't please people anymore. I can't fit into their world anymore. And truth doesn't go away because it is ignored. It accumulates. And the empath often feels that accumulation in their own nervous system. And then there comes a day when enough is enough. They're done apologizing for what they see. They're done carrying other people's denial. They're done making themselves villains in a story. What did your enough is enough moment look like? What do you what do you sense it will look like if it hasn't come yet? See, this breaking point opens the door for deeper transformation. Up until now, empaths has mainly read everyone else's stuff, but now they turn to the same laser of perception of inward. Psychologically, this is shadow work, facing their own wounds, patterns, and self betrayals without flinching. And they begin to see where they lied to themselves to keep others comfortable, even when they lied to others just to fit in, where they confused self sacrifice with love, where their need to be needed kept them stuck in abusive dynamics. See, this is a descent into the underworld of the self. Gnosis is inner knowing, we call it. Not belief, not dogma, but direct experience of one's truth. These empaths, they can excavate their own deepest wounds simply by looking at them honestly. They stop asking what's wrong with me, and they start asking what is the pattern trying to teach me. And when you turn your perception inward, what patterns in yourself do you start to recognize? And before this inner shift, the empath is often the scapegoat. They are blamed for the conflict they simply describe, accused of overreacting when they were accurately reading the room, used as an emotional dumping ground for unresolved pain. But after awakening, something changes. I call it chasing down the demons, right? They no longer need to be liked to feel safe. They don't give a shit. They're okay with solitude, as a matter of fact. They no longer explain away abuse as misunderstandings, and they no longer allow lies just to keep the peace. And here is the moment that truth terrifies those who once controlled them. Everyone expects the empath to explode, scream, fall apart. Instead, they become calm. And this calm is not numbness. It is clarity. And they have stopped lying to themselves. See, and when the inner war ends, the outer war becomes unnecessary. They don't give no shits anymore. See, hell has no fury like an empath who is awakened who no longer hides. Not because they seek revenge, but because they finally stand in truth. So if you're going to gaslight them, you're going to get caught and called out. If you're going to manipulate them, you're going to get called out and caught. And how does this feel in your body when you imagine responding to manipulation with calm clarity instead of collapse or chaos? So the point of no more, the point of no return, we call it. Permanence of transformation. See, when the empath walks through the dark night of the soul, they don't ever go backwards. Their transformation is permanent. This is not a transformation, not a mood. It is not a phase. It is a permanent shift in identity and perception, and you will never get them to climb back. So you might as well stop trying because you're just going to put yourself in the corner. So once an empath truly sees the game of manipulation, guilt trips, gaslighting, silent treatments, love bombing even, those tactics stop working. And they almost just start to laugh at it and sit back as calm as can be and go, "You just try to gaslight me? Nice try. I don't think so. No, time out." See, because what happens is the core wound, it must be my fault, has been healed. So they're not going to take the shit anymore. I'm glad that coffee's good. Pure peace, pure bliss, baby. See, do research on boundaries, because boundaries shows when people begin to set them and hold them firm. Their limits, their vulnerability to emotionally manipulation drops 100%, and their self-respect rises, their confidence rises, and their mental health actually improves. They go, no, no more, man. There's a point of no return, we call it. The version of you that could be endlessly played, guilted, and bent out of shape is fucking gone. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Nope. I mean, can you think of a tactic that used to work on you that now feels obvious and even ridiculous? How many? How many of you can think of one? Just one. A tactic that used to work on me is I'd walk in a room, they're like, "Oh, your energy's intense," and I used to bring it down. Now I go, "Well, then stop hiding, and it won't feel so intense because I'm not dampening who I am. Or if you don't like it, you can move yourself because I'm not moving." See what happens, you begin to cut out the toxic emotional surgery. And when the inner shift happens, their outer life changes fast, often dramatically within months. An awakened empath starts doing emotional surgery on their life. They cut out relationships that only function if they stay small and self sacrificing. Find less if I'm too much. Yeah. They cut out relationships that only function if they stay small and self sacrificing. They leave environments where their clarity, is punished instead of welcomed. They won't even be in them. They're like, fine, I'm not coming, man. See you later. They end commitments that are based on fear, obligations, or guilt rather than authentic choice. And this is not being harsh. This is being precise. They're no longer willing to bleed out to keep someone else's comfort. And they're no longer available as dumping grounds for unprocessed pain. And yes, this can look like losing friends, leaving jobs, even, walking away from family patterns that have lasted generations. Some have actually even left their own marriages. But in that loss, there's a profound gain. The empath stops being character in everyone else's story and becomes the author of their own. So it's one boundary you already know you need to set, even if it scares you. Let's talk about rebuilding life on their own terms. I mean, as the toxicity is removed, space opens. And in that open space, the empath rebuilds life from the inside out. And they begin to choose relationships where their perceptions is respected, not mocked. Honesty is normal, not a crisis. No is accepted as a complete sentence. And they shape their daily life around nervous system regulation instead of constant trauma. Work that aligns with their values and uses their depth as an asset. Quiet, solitude, and often time in nature, so their system can reset and ground. See, their empathy doesn't disappear, it becomes focused. Compassion remains, but self betrayal ends. And this is a life on their terms, no longer centered around not upsetting others, but around not abandoning themselves. Thanks, American Stoner. So, if you could rebuild your life from the ground up around your truth, what is one change you would make first? I want to talk about nature because you know that that's just my thing. It's where I found my healing, guys. It's where I observed life and began to be able to observe it and see even to the depths of my soul. Because you look to nature for a moment, like let's look at a tree. It survives storms, grows deeper roots, and the wind that almost broke it is the same force that made it strong. Raw metal is soft and shapeless, and it becomes a sword through fire and hammer. See, your life has been the forge all the times you were dismissed, gaslit, scapegoat, used. That was the hammer. Do you see that? We were forged, motherfuckers. And all the times you felt too much, that was the fire. The kindness without boundaries is self reassurance. Kindness with clarity is power. You were never weak. You were unforged steel. And what is one storm from your past, when you look at it now clearly, forged to strengthen you? Me, mine was hospice, man. I mean, let's return one more to the quantum metaphor and consciousness in physics. The observer affects the system. So in human life, a consciously presents empath affects the emotional field of a room, right? And before they were sponges absorbing everything, drowning in every emotion. And after awakening, what happens is they become the filter and mirrors. And now they choose what to let in and what to release. Witness instead of absorb, respond instead of react. And their presence alone invites a different level of honesty. Around them, it becomes harder to lie, not because they attack, but because their clarity exposes the gap between the words and reality. Spiritually, they become a living mirror. They don't force truth, they embody it. And gnostically, they are knowers, not of dogma, but of direct inner knowing. We've come to the place of the inner knowing, the observers. And you're here to stay awake in a world that prefers sleep. Now, how do you imagine you would move through a world if you trusted your own perception and intuition completely? So, what does it mean for the empath to become psychologically complete? It means they still felt deeply, but they are no longer controlled by those feelings. They still care about others, but they are no longer abandoning themselves to keep the peace. They still see people clearly, but they choose where to invest their energy. They have integrated. They've integrated their light and shadow, and their love and their anger, and their empathy and their boundaries. And they are no longer manipulatable because they know their own value and reality. They can walk into a room and read the atmosphere, not to survive it, but to decide consciously how or if they even want to engage. Their transformation is permanent. They are not going back to who they were, so don't even bother trying. It's a waste of your time. That version of them was the cocoon. This is the butterfly. They went through the chrysalis. And when you picture your psychologically complete self, what is the one behavior you know you will still never again tolerate? See, to that empaths listening, I want to say something. You were told you were too sensitive. You were told you were overreacting. And you were told you were the problem. You were not the problem. You were the mirror, and they couldn't handle looking at themselves. Your story is not that you stay the scapegoat. Your story is that you awaken, integrate your shadows, cut out the toxic, rebuild your life, and become the force of calm, truth in a chaotic world. But this is not a curse. This is a crafted weapon. This is clarity. This is your gift. So for next week, I want you to try something simple. I want you to practice something. So when you sense something off in a room or a relationship, don't gaslight yourself. Silently acknowledge, I sense, and later check, was your perception accurate? And let that slowly build your trust in your own inner world, knowing. So you're not here to be endlessly reshaped by other people's opinions or shadows. You are here to stand in your own light with your own truth. And as a psychologically complete empath, what is one concrete way you will stop abandoning your own truth and starting today? I want you to think about that. Always get the religious ones coming on here. Cheers, man. That's your perception. It's your world. If you want to live in that perception and torture your mind that way, that's up to you. But I don't receive that. I don't accept that. And I won't even go down that road with you. That's a religious structure that man made. It's not even the true Christ consciousness whatsoever. It's not even the Yeshua, the real Truth, the world took it and twisted, man, and it's been all man-made, and so what has happened is you've been manipulated, gaslit to believe a religious structure that is actually made and designed to control man. They even did it right at the beginning, you know, when Yeshua, the actual real Yeshua, was going through what he was going through, they decided they were scared of the freedom that humanity came because that Yeshua was taught, just like in John 10:34 says, "It's not written in your laws, but I tell you the truth, you're all gods." And he taught about the inner kingdom, the kingdom within to go in. And what happened is it scared the system, and the system wanted control. So they created religion to manipulate and control you. And so anything that goes into an attack, a judgment, and anything like that is definitely not of the oneness of the source of all life. So peace to you, bro. Be proud of who, what the kid version of you, be proud of who they grew up to be. 100%. 100%. The kid version would be like, "It's about time. It's about time you just be yourself for crying out loud. It's about time you just walk in your freedom. Freedom, I tell you." You know, now, no, I think my younger version is very proud of myself today, who I have become. 100%. Where have you been my whole life? I don't know, man. I've always just been. I am that I am, floating around in existence. I'm right there in the mirrored image your whole life. Isn't that amazing? I love it how we always get a religious one on here. It's so funny. So, on our live TikTok, one of the things we love to do is we love to let the outside clouds come through and floating by. So, I figured I'd let you guys have that experience. And I know there was a few of you on here that used to watch a show that we used to have on here a long time ago, that then you would know the beauty of those clouds. But they're just clouds from outside. That's all there is. We just love to show the beauty of nature, you know? So hang on, let me go open that window and let's go see what we can have happen here. I believe in him. Mother's love. I believe in my want to exist and enjoy life, not some made up figure that makes up fight about stories. I like that, bro. I like that. Like that, man. Ba ba da 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 da. I am that I am da 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 da. I am that I am da 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 da. London, are you am that I am? London, you fur boy. Do for my goofers. I am that I am that I am. Okay, we gotta let's go let nature in. London, what do you think? We let nature in? Pop the magic dragon. Okay, we gotta open up these windows. Guys, get ready. Can you catch a cloud? Let's see if you'll catch a cloud. Okay, the windows are being opened. See if you can call the magical clouds forward. You ready? My goodness! Do you see the floating clouds? Wow, and the light has activated the clouds and everything. Can you feel that on your side? How's that for holding some energy? There you go. Have fun with that, you guys. Peace and love. See you next time.